Welcome, everyone, to episode number 115 of the From the Hart Podcast, presented by Orange Kiwi. Orange Kiwi is a local Southern California consulting firm that specializes in helping family and closely held businesses navigate significant transitions. To learn more about Orange Kiwi, visit orangekiwillc.com. Orange, because one of their partners is from Orange County, and you might have guessed it, Kiwi, because the other's from New Zealand. So, Allie and Andrew Taylor from Orange Kiwi. My guest today, I'm so excited. We've been connecting for a long time, trying to put this together, and finally here we are today. We're both so excited about this that before we recorded, we both got our cell phones out and took a picture of we're really here. So you'll probably see a picture on LinkedIn soon of Loretta with her phone taking a picture of the screen and Ed with his phone taking a picture of the screen. So Loretta, before I even jump into anything, welcome. It's so nice to finally connect with you. We've had a couple of conversations. It's nice to finally be recording this and sharing it with the world. So happy to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy and I'm so looking forward to this conversation.
As am I. Thank you so much. For those watching, she's dressed in a beautiful dress, great background. And I'm sitting here in my golf shirt with books and other little trinkets on the walls. So anyway, you win when it comes to the visual aspect of this. So
well, working from home, I don't have an office, so my home office becomes a part of the home that I just feel like I want to be in and that it's inspiring. And right now I'm in our sunroom and I chose to stand because I just can't sit that long. And I didn't want to be distracted by, the aching legs or hips. So I'm standing in our sunroom. It's not a sunny day, but it's a beautiful room to be in.
That's all right. And you're up in the Seattle area, if I'm understanding right. Excellent. All right. Well, with that being said, Loretta is an executive coach. We're going to talk a lot about her coaching and what she does. Former executive vice president of Nordstrom. So yes, ladies, she has, and gentlemen as well, a very long background in retail. It was over a $2 billion budget in her role with Nordstrom. She's had a lot of success there. She's a mother of three. She is what she calls a balance expert. And I get that doesn't just mean that she can stand for the next hour, but I'm guessing it's balance in a different way. So yeah, we will discuss that for sure. As I mentioned, her journey began as a cashier, moving all the way up to an EVP within Nordstrom. Her philosophies are all over her website, but she talks a lot about something that I love, and I get this from a lot of my guests, is that sometimes we feel like we have to sacrifice one big thing for another big thing. Many people feel like sacrificing their family for business success is almost a given. Loretta's philosophy is that very much isn't. So we'll talk a lot about that, how you can have everything, basically. I'm paraphrasing you. While at Nordstrom, she raised three children alongside her husband, who was a lawyer, transitioned into a stay-at-home dad. Loretta mentioned before we started recording today that she listened to a recent episode that I did with Jenny Dinnan and Katie Rucker, who you may have heard an episode or two ago as well, who both also have dads or husbands who are stay-at-home dads who stay home with their kids while Jenny and Katie run their company. So I know Loretta will have a lot to talk about, as Jenny and Katie are two of my favorite people as well. After 7 years as an EVP, she was fired. So for any of us who thought we were on a great road to success, I've been there too. Excuse me. She got the axe, so to speak. So we'll talk about that and how that must have been. But that led her to her big breakthrough. And in 2012, with just an iPad and laying on the bedroom floor, she created her business where she now guides professionals to, like I said, transform and have success without having to sacrifice what matters most. All right, long intro. There's more to it. And we'll talk about it as we go through the conversation. You talk about aligning values with priorities, add gratitude and grit, and create a life you love. So talk about this life that you love so much. Anywhere that takes you right now.
The life I love right now, I'd say the biggest thing is if you look at success over 25 years at Nordstrom, 12 years now consulting. So the cumulative of that, I think success is about having time. And now I have time to structure my days, to spend time with our kids, to spend time with my husband, to work with clients all over the globe at a pace and a schedule and a structure that feels good and right and allows me to make sure I can actually fill the other buckets in my life, which is kids, my husband, family, and friends. So I would say that the life I love is the freedom of time, the freedom of flexibility. And I actually start each morning with a 5-minute journal. I learned this from Tim Ferriss. It was one of his products of the month, probably a year or two ago. And it's a quick 5-minute journal. Yep, that's it.
I'm holding
I'm
up
not
the
a
gratitude
journaler.
journal.
Yeah, I'm kind of a efficiency monger. And so if it takes more than 5 minutes,
Right.
it's typically not going to happen. But I find myself at the start of each day, which the first 3 lines in that journal after you write the date are, what are you grateful for?
Yep.
And I would say more times than not, I'm grateful for the freedom and flexibility that I have now, being a business owner and an entrepreneur, and not having to race out the door and go sit in a boardroom or corporate America. So the life I love is the life I have. I don't need anything more. I truly love my life every single day. I have tremendous gratitude.
Just to finish out that page, since you and I both do this every day, the first 3 lines is, as Loretta talked about, I'm grateful for 3 things. What would make today great? 3 things. Daily affirmations, again, 3 things. And then at the end of the day, what happened, or okay, I mean, amazing things that happened today. What could have made today better? And I do that too. I've been doing it for years. And I notice when things are going really well in my life, there's a lot I can point to, and keeping up on that is one of them. And when there are stumbling blocks or I'm stuck, it's like, man, I haven't written my journal for a while. So
You know
thank you
what?
for the reminder.
I agree. Or I find, which has been a little bit of this past, maybe month-ish or so, I haven't been as disciplined about it. Things were really busy. And I think it's a reminder to me when I'm not doing that, that I actually need to like get my feet grounded. And I often talk about starting your day on your heels or starting on your toes. And if you have the time to spend 5, 10, 15 minutes grounding yourself in some type of meditation, just mindfulness, whether it's that journal, whether it's deep breathing, whether it's yoga, stretching, cold plunging, whatever it is, I'm a firm believer in that right there will set you up for success. And if you're off kilter, it's the best way to go back and get back on track.
Yeah, I love that. I recently heard someone talk about what are the non-negotiables in your life. For some, it's morning prayer. For some, it's morning exercise, swim. That's me. I love to swim. I love to get on the bike. I had a knee replacement recently, so I haven't done either of those, but I'm getting back this next week. So my non-negotiables were negotiated for a while, but now they're coming back. What would you say are some of those non-negotiables for you? There's just things you're going to do no matter what.
I love that question. And I'm really diligent about my non-negotiables. They are prayer or meditation in the morning. It's going to be fitness at least once a day. And that's calendared. That's an appointment with myself. And no matter what, it's connecting with my husband and my children. So those are non-negotiables. Things that might come in and out of the day are going to be okay. But those things that are the most important, they're scheduled, they're priorities, they align with my values, and they kind of always have been.
Yeah.
And when I think about back when I was managing, you mentioned I was managing a $2 billion P&L. I had 3 kids under 6, a newborn. Actually, she was newborn, 2.5, and 4. So
Wow.
3 kids under 4. I had a $2 billion.
Every one of those by themselves is a full-time job. Kid 1, kid 2, kid 3, and the full-time job could all be.
Yeah, thank God my husband we made the choice for him to step back from his law career and stay home. But there was no way I could have functioned, let alone survived and even tried to thrive if I didn't have those non-negotiables, boundaries in place. And I talk about that in one of the chapters of the book I'm writing around how to balance billions, babies, boundaries, and bonding. And it was really intentional and it was really practical. And those are things I kind of established then that I've never let go of because they just they make me better. And then they make me better at taking care of everybody else. I used to think, or people used to talk about and throw around the word about being selfish, and I never bought into that.
Hmm.
The non-negotiables in my mind are self-preservation.
Yeah.
It's putting on your safety mask, air mask, whatever you call that thing,
Right.
your
The thing
air
that we
mask.
never see, knock on wood, that should drop.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah.
Before you put on the kids, the people next to you, you have to be whole, for me, inside and out, mind, body, spirit, before you can actually give to those people nearest to you, let alone the world.
Yeah. I like that. And there's nothing, I mean, the true definition of the word selfish is really self-like, being like
Yep.
yourself, being focused on self, self-centered is a whole different thing,
Right.
but
Yep.
selfish is okay. A good friend of mine who's also been on the podcast, Stephanie Shostak, a while back, wrote a book called Selfish. And it's all about, kind of ties in with that 5-minute journal idea, that concept of, if I don't focus on myself and put that, I think she might have used that same analogy, put the life mat or not now, I can't say the word, the oxygen mask. There we go.
Oxygen
I'm going to
mask.
write
There
that
we
down
go.
so I don't forget, the oxygen mask, put that on first before I take care of my kids.
Yeah.
We have to, I've heard it called the love cup. I've read a lot of these therapy books and been through things over the years. And, if we don't fill our own love or energy cup first, won't have anything left to give others.
Yeah.
What I love about what I've learned about you through the preparation, and it's been, I do a lot of prep for all my guests. I feel like I've had more time to prep for you because we've had a longer runway between first conversation to finally recording today.
Yeah.
And a couple of false starts where we almost did it. But what I love is that the life that you have created for yourself is exactly what you coach your clients. Not the exact same life. Not everybody has 3 kids and is former EVP of Nordstrom, but how to balance and how to work hard, but also how to play hard and play easy, if you will. And
Yeah.
have that same, how do you do that because I'm sure you have men and women who come to you who just think, look, my success is because I work 80-hour work weeks. And I try to squeeze in, bedtime story with the kids when I can, and maybe have breakfast with them once a week. And if I get it twice a week, it's a win. I know you don't approach every client the same, but what is that approach? What's that kind of that pattern, if you will, that you follow as a coach to help your clients achieve kind of that balance or that rhythm, if you will?
Well, the first thing we start with is that balance is a myth. There is no balance. There's no balance in a marriage.
Wait,
There's no
you say you're a
balance in
balance
work.
expert, and now you're saying there's no balance. Help me
Yeah.
process this.
Yeah. And I don't ever want to say I'm an expert either. I'm not an expert. I'm not a self-proclaimed guru.
Right.
What I am is a real person that's done what I think a lot of people want to do, which is have a thriving career. That I started, as you mentioned, I started as a cashier, an accidental job over the summer after I graduated from Cal. My dad made it really clear, you're off the payroll.
Yep.
And I had aspirations for, big, more prestigious jobs. I graduated with a degree in econ and business from Cal, and I thought that I could get a job, and I couldn't. I didn't have any experience. I'd spent my summers swimming, not working. So I was great in the pool. I didn't know I couldn't get myself out of a spreadsheet if you paid me.
Right. Yeah.
So I had no experience, no mentors, no network. But I needed money. I needed a job. So my sister, who was working, my oldest sister was working at Nordstrom. She talked me into taking a job as a cashier. So that cashier ended up being a salesperson. And then, 25 years later, I ended up with the largest job for anyone whose last name wasn't Nordstrom as the EVP of all of women's $2 billion P&L. So what I tell people first and foremost is there's no balance. There's no predetermined success metric. There's no right or wrong path. What there is, in my case, a lot of grit, a lot of resilience, a lot of digging deep to find the confidence that what I was doing, selling swimsuits at Nordstrom, was just fine compared to my friends, in advertising or in finance downtown San Francisco. So with my clients who range men and women, all ages, there is kind of a sweet spot. First, we have to level set that I'm just someone that's done what they, I think, hope to do, which is a thriving career while raising a family and maintaining and having an incredible marriage after 25 years. So I'm the neighbor next door. I'm the kid's mom. I'm the mentor who has, students and young professionals knocking at the door. And so the first thing we do is we align on values.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know what your values are, for me, they're crystal clear. Their faith, their family, their fitness, and their business.
Yeah.
Those are just pillars for me.
Non-negotiables going back. Yeah.
Those are non-negotiables. And in business, I would underpin that with innovation and curiosity and passion and consummate learning. So when we start to get clear on what those values are, and then you line up the priorities and those non-negotiables, then we can start to kind of do a little analysis of what do you have going on in your job, in your life, in your fitness? What are your goals? And honestly, a lot of it comes down to calendar management, boundaries, non-negotiables. And I would say the thing that's probably underestimated the most in kind of setting that up and then achieving is the support system.
Definitely.
Most people think, okay, I'm off on my fitness. Okay, I'm going to get a coach. I'm going to calendar it. I'm going to block the time. I'm going to enter a race to keep me accountable. I'm going to check in. I'm going to join a team. All of those things, the join the team is the first start to that support system. But if you don't engage your partner, your babysitter, your employer, your coworker, your neighbor in that pursuit, you're going to be a lone ranger and you're not going to get it done. So I'd say all those things have to fall in place, and then you have to identify, inform, and really leverage your support system. And that goes for building your career, solving problems, creating something new. It could be starting a business. It could be childcare, whatever it is, the support system is paramount.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because as you talk about those areas, the faith, the family, the fitness, the career, and so forth, there are subcategories underneath each of those, and many of those overlap. It
For
might
sure.
be, your faith and your family overlap very much. I mean, for me, church
For
on Sunday
sure.
with my wife,
Mhm.
fitness, going for a walk with my neighbor, your work. All of those can really have a lot of overlap, which is great. I love that in 2020, during the great year of COVID, that word work, or that term work-life balance, I heard a lot of people talk about work-life rhythm. And even though you're just changing one word, I really like that, because for me, I might be doing a Bible study at 2 p.m, and I might be at a kids' Little League game at 4 p.m, and I might be working at 7 p.m. And I might be getting time with my wife at 10 a.m, where I usually only got that early or late. But now it's like, you know what? I'll slide out of my desk here at home, working from home like you are, and have lunch with my wife at noon, which I did that every day during COVID. And even today, 5 years later, I'm still doing that, getting to work from home. So that rhythm of just, I wake up and I'm all of those people until I go to bed. And it's not like, here's my fitness time. You said exercise
Right.
at least once. You might not exercise first thing in the morning, but you might do it at 3 p.m. So from the time my head leaves the pillow to hits the pillow, I'm going to hit all of those categories, and it's going to kind of have a rhythmic feel to it.
Yeah, when I think about work-life balance, and I think it's BS,
Yeah.
I think back to my days at Nordstrom as an executive, and if it was during the Fashion Week schedule, which would be
Yeah.
either February or September,
It was
and
crazy.
even there'd be a pocket in June. I'd say for 15 years, I never celebrated our wedding anniversary with my husband because I was always in New York.
Yeah.
It's June 12th, and that was market week for the holiday season. And then when you think about either September or February, you've got New York Fashion Week for 6 straight days, and then you fly home, and you might be able to carve out 2 or 3 days on the weekend to spend with your family.
Right.
And then you're off to Paris and London, and if you have to, which I usually didn't have to, Milan. So there was no balance.
Yeah.
But I knew that going in. My husband knew that. And as our kids got just a little bit older, they kind of knew that. They knew it because the bags and and garment bags of clothes would come in because I would have to buy an entire new wardrobe every September and every February, because God forbid I wasn't in like the latest and greatest. So
and you can't wear
my
the same things at the
oldest
same
will
place.
remember all the packages and the shoes being laid out. And it was like styling a show before I would leave for these kind of 3 weeks. So there was no balance, but I knew that those 3 weeks were on the calendar. My husband knew that. He kind of geared up. He planned for it. He would enlist his parents. He would enlist possibly my niece, a part-time nanny to help him so he didn't burn out for those 3 weeks. But then what I would do is then I would block out a week after those 3, and that was 100% family time. No phone, no email, no nothing. That's actually balance. It's never equal. It's never 50-50. But what you're describing now, I think allows people to have a little bit more balance, because you're not maybe driving into an office, sitting for 8 hours and driving home. But what I think is happening, and this is a true story, I have a friend's son who is working remote, working on a big project, works for a big digital company, and was visiting in-laws at a dinner on a Saturday night with 2 phones. I'm like, what on earth? 2 phones on a Saturday night?
Right.
Well, there's some project going on that requires basically around the clock attention and editing and this and that. And so my comment to that was, I get it. This is an extreme situation. They're under a deadline. If an engineer overseas is working on it and there needs to be an adjustment, a decision, whatever, I get it. That might happen Saturday night, 7 p.m. But what I said to my friend and later to her son, I hope that when that project is done, you put both of those phones away and you actually give that time back to yourself, your partner, your in-laws, or whomever was at that dinner table watching you with the 2 phones on top of the table. So that is how we have to learn to live, and we have to learn to accept that the balance doesn't exist, but that doesn't mean you can't protect your time and have boundaries around the time that is for you and for your business, and then for the other things that matter and align with your values.
I was just thinking that word alignment, and you said align. I'm sure you have clients who come to you and just say, look, I'm pulled in 19 different directions. All those things we just talked about. Plus, I'm on my kids' Little League board, and I'm also, on the HOA committee, and, there's 94 other things I'm doing. How do you encourage them to find alignment, or again, balance doesn't exist? So I'll use the word alignment instead. You take time to get the wheels aligned, or balanced. It's synonymous, but let's use the word alignment if that's even a thing. How do you encourage folks to get aligned?
I think the way we work on that is really 2 things. When it's someone a little bit younger, we really start with goals. Like, really, what's the North Star? And again, it's not just a professional North Star. Like, where do you want to be personally, emotionally, professionally, financially, spiritually? Like, where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself? What does success look like, feel like, in 6 months, 12 months, 2 years? For someone maybe a little bit more seasoned, it's, what's your legacy? What do you want people to say about you? What do you want your kids? How would your kids describe you? And so when we start with those questions, and some of the answers are actually pretty sad. In one case, I had someone that said, oh my gosh, my kid told me, don't come to my basketball games anymore if you're just going to sit on the bleachers on your phone. I said, well, that's the gut punch you needed. Either go to the basketball game and leave your phone in the car, or don't go. But going to give lip service, and the kid is seeing you not attentive, not present, not focused on them, actions speak louder than words. And I cringe when I think about that. It actually gives me goosebumps, because the kids, they pick up everything. They notice everything. And so if you have a family and you're wondering if you're juggling too many balls, what balls align with preparing your children for the future? What balls align with the legacy you want as a parent?
Right.
And then it's, if you're out 4 or 5 nights a week, well, what are those things? Are those just a bunch of activities because you like being out?
Yeah.
What about just being home, doing homework, watching a show, baking cookies, riding the bike? So I think one of my superpowers when I'm coaching people is really asking a lot of questions
Yeah.
and asking the questions that help them come to some conclusions that enable them to make decisions that propel them closer to their goals.
No, that being present is so important too. I've talked a lot, and I've been guilty of being that person who's on the phone when I'm somewhere and I'm not really there. And it's just
Yeah.
yeah, that being wherever you are, be there. If you're with your kids, be with your kids. If you're at work, be at work. It's hard. I mean, because we're human beings, as you talked about. We're just people. We make
Yeah.
mistakes. I think about work when I'm at home. I think about home when I'm at work. I think about, that social outing this Saturday night when I should be at my kid or grandson, in my case, Little League game. But yeah, keeping that.
Well, I think it's,
focus.
and you know what, if it can be the exception that you're
Yeah,
on the phone or you're distracted or whatever, and just not the rule
right.
and not the norm. One of the simple little kind of rules, philosophies we had when our kids were young, and they were probably in middle school, they were old enough to have phones. And we would go out to dinner, the local little pizza or sushi restaurant, whatever. And we had a rule that no phones at dinner.
Yeah,
And all 5 of us, we locked our phones in the glove compartment no matter what. And we went into the restaurant and they didn't need it. They sometimes would just like get distracted on Snapchat or whatever.
yeah,
And we didn't need it either. But the point was we had to model the behavior we wanted them to show us. So it was that consistency. Still now, our kids are 20, 22, and 24. And we just had a week together down in Austin for our son's graduation. He's the middle, 22.
Texas, yeah.
And we had a number of lunches and dinners. And our eldest, who is an influencer and is always photographing everything, the other 4 of us are like, hey, no phones at dinner, no phones at lunch, put it away. Because we know that time, even now as adults, is so precious and finite that we kind of govern each other on being present and following that rule that we didn't really know the impact of that then, but it's, 14, 18 years later, it's still in play and it matters. And it matters like when the grandparents come over that the kids, they could easily be like double checking their plan for the night or answering someone that's 2 hours ahead down in Austin that might be sending them something interesting or funny, and unequivocally put it away. It doesn't even come into the room that we are in together, but most especially with the grandparents. Time is like the clock is ticking.
No, I'm here to tell you, as a grandpa, I know that time with the grandson.
Oh yeah. So how disturbing would that be if you were sitting with those little kids and they were like playing games? Like, come on.
Yeah, or disturbing to them if grandpa's doing it. I've got three old college buddies that we still get together about once a year. And when cell phones started being in, we've been hanging out together since way before cell phones. I'm 61 years old. But now when we get together, we have a rule. First person to even look at their cell phone buys lunch.
Oh, I love it. That's so good.
I keep mine in my pocket, or we announce when we're there, look, wife's about to have a baby or grandson's in the hospital. I'm going to leave my phone face up. So if anything pops up, I'll see it. But still the rule applies. If you touch your phone, you're buying lunch.
I love that.
Invariably, we've never had to have somebody at the end of lunch go, well, none of us touched our phone. Who's buying? We've always 5 minutes in, up, you're buying. And so,
oh my gosh. Well, I love it. It's
good because it trains us to
good attempt.
To be where you are. So you've had some challenges in your life. One most notably we talked about in your intro, and that is getting fired. You strike me as the type of person, not only because I've read this about you, but just in getting to know you, that you probably, like most of us, sit on the couch and eat a bucket of ice cream and pout for a minute when this happens. But then you take that and say, okay, what am I to learn from this? Getting fired. What big ahas and blessings, to use that term that I'm sure you use a lot as well, have come from that?
Yeah.
Opportunities of transformation that have come your way as a result of being fired.
Well, I have to say, even just hearing you describe that, and I still get goosebumps. It was a big deal. In fact, you know what? It actually took me a long time to even say the word fired. Like I was let go, I left, I retired. I used all
Right.
of those words. I think I was afraid of being super vulnerable and admitting I got fired.
Fired comes back, it points at us. I did something wrong.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll never forget that. I mean, I was at the height of my career. I literally had the biggest job in the company other than the Nordstrom family. And the way that went down, I describe it in my book. It's kind of how I start my book, to be honest. And then I've done a video, I think I put it on LinkedIn and Instagram, that it it came a little bit out of the blue. The pressure was so intense for so long, and I had 3 kids under 4. Um, the day that that happened, it was really quick. Pete Nordstrom sent me a text. I'm driving across the bridge, and from where I live to downtown Seattle, where the flagship store is, it takes about 8-10 minutes to get there.
Yeah.
And I was crossing the water. I live on an island. I was crossing the water on my way to the freeway to go downtown Seattle, and my phone lit up. I had a text message that said, "Hey, Loretta, why don't you swing by my office when you get in?" And I was like, oh God. First day back from vacation in January at 8 a.m.
Mm.
There's just no way. He doesn't want to chat about vacation.
Right.
That would have
Tell me where you went.
that would have been
Going there too. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a few days from now, like in the afternoon over a coffee. So I kind of started to tremble as I navigated downtown Seattle, and then I parked my car and I walked in. I was kind of shaking. I set down my handbag and I looked at my assistant and I showed her my phone. I didn't even say anything. I don't even think I could talk. I showed her my phone and she looked at me like she was watching someone go down for an execution.
Did you have any
So
idea?
I walked down the hall. I've got a photographic memory. I literally can remember exactly what I was wearing, the handbag I was carrying. I can practically retrace my steps down to the right,
Yeah.
down to the left. And, the left was, uh, you know, EVP of HR, CTO, Blake Nordstrom, Eric Nordstrom, CFO, Mike, and then Pete's office. And I walk in and I could tell already when I walked in, the blinds were closed as they weren't normally. He's 6'5". He looked about 7'5" that
Right.
day.
Yeah.
And if anyone that's listening has ever been fired or fired anyone, there's the classic white papers off the printer turned down.
Yeah.
So
It's not a
as
good
soon
thing.
as you see those pages off the printer
Face
or
down.
face
Yeah.
down on the little table, you kind of know what's happening.
Yeah.
So I think, you know what, you said the way I probably responded. I heard what he said, which was, angst filled for him. He didn't want to do it. I know he didn't. We had an incredible relationship, a really strong working relationship. The pressure was mounting on both of us. His name was on the door. He wasn't going to get fired. Mine wasn't. I had the biggest job. The results weren't great. They were better than the competition. They were better than the industry average, but it didn't matter. A public company, a board expects
Yeah.
X, and you're performing at Y, doesn't matter. So the message was delivered. My first instinct was to fight back. I'm competitive. I'm an athlete.
Right.
I'm not going to go down without boxing. So I probably for about a minute or two, defended myself, defended my team, argued, whatever, but for only about a minute and a half. And then I had a couple deep breaths and I kind of just had some self-talk, which was, you can either box this out and it's not going to help, or you can just get some grace,
Yeah.
take a deep breath, acknowledge what's happening, and walk out with your head high. And I did exactly that. I said, Pete, I get it. The ship has sailed. I understand. You've made a tough choice. I accept it. And really that was that. And what was so hard was that 25 years, everything I had known since essentially age 21,
In a
when
cashier,
I started,
working your way
was
up.
literally gone in a minute. And I think what makes those things so hard is that there's no dialogue. It's like someone coming home, I imagine, and saying, we're getting divorced.
Yeah.
You've never had a
Decisions
conversation, you've
made.
never gone through therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I handled it well that day. I went to my office. I called my husband. I was like, well,
Hmm.
I drove home. We talked for a minute. I went to yoga and he was a little panicked, stay-at-home dad, hadn't worked in 10 years.
Right.
We were just beginning a kitchen remodel. Even the kitchen guys were like, should we stop
Right.
hammering?
We stop. Yeah. Right.
Should we
What did
stop
that look
and
like for
put it
us?
back together?
Yeah.
And
Wow.
no, the answer is no. I had a lot of PTSD. Like I would wake up in the middle of the night, like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah.
What happened? Like, how did I go from that, the highest in the industry, the highest in the company, the highest in the industry, to like gone, like literally in a minute, in a blink of an eye, in a minute. So over the course of the weeks, the months, the this, the that, I accepted it. I did take it courageously and with grace. I recently found an email I wrote to the family and to the Nordstrom employees when I left, kind of a farewell message.
Yeah.
And I almost get choked up when I think about it because the way I wrote that was with just tremendous gratitude. I was so lucky to accidentally fall into that job, to work for the best, I think the best company in the world, the best family in the world. I learned so much. It enabled me everything I've done since then. And when we told our kids, my son was the one that was like, don't worry, mommy, there's always a happy ending. This is going to be just fine.
Wow.
And how true that was, because it needed time. I didn't know that that worst, most devastating day of my life, I thought then was honestly the best thing that ever happened. It was from that day I was able to build this life that we talked about when we began this podcast of freedom and flexibility and scope. I described it after as if someone washed the windows. Like, oh my God, like I loved what I was doing. I did so well, but wow, there's a whole world out there. And now I can see clearly.
Do you remember a moment or a day or where you were when you first, because I've been in that situation, different story, but similar feel, when you had that moment of gratitude that you actually were given a chance to move on? Not gratitude for being fired necessarily, but gratitude. You've always had that gratitude for that job. That's very
Yeah.
clear by what you just shared. But looking back at that moment when Pete sat you down and just said, we have to make this change, at some
Mhm.
point in time, you've probably had that moment where you're just so grateful.
Yeah, I would say I think I was the most grateful that fall. So this happened January, right after the Christmas holiday. I think that when it really hit me was when the kids got out of school that summer and I was able to take them to summer swim team practice at
Yeah.
our country club at 9 or 10 or 11 a.m., pack the towels, apply the sunscreen, watch them just, squirm away in the swimming pool. And I thought, you know what? All I really ever wanted from the day the kids were born to this point was to actually have that kind of a summer experience.
Right.
I didn't have that. I was grinding during the summer and I was lucky if I'd get home at 6 to take them on a run. So as simple as it was to be able to like pack baggies of grapes and goldfish crackers and a bag of towels and sunscreen and watch them jump in the pool at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, I was like, there's nothing better.
Never.
Then I remember one of my girlfriends who hadn't worked when she had kids was over and I invited like all the neighborhood kids over. It was like, Wednesday at noon, and I was barbecuing sliders in the backyard. And she was like, wow, I don't think I never imagined I would have seen you do this. And I go, Sarah, this is like the happiest day of my life.
I love it.
Like literally, I've got like 12 little kids running around the backyard with the sprinkler and I'm barbecuing burgers. Are you kidding me? This is the dream.
Yep, I love that. That's so awesome.
So I think, again, it aligns with my values around family. And
Yeah.
what I would say to, to working parents, double down when they're younger, like I did. And then when I left, my eldest was maybe 6th or 7th grade. So that means they must have been 3rd, 5th, and 7th. But that's when they start to really need you, is that middle school and high school. And I had that freedom and flexibility to make burgers at noon because I could work from 6 to noon, or I could work from 2 to 5. I could actually create my own schedule. And that's really what it all ended up being for me, and enabling me to have this life I love.
So if it's not a chapter in your book, and I want to jump into your book now, it should be a chapter, Making Burgers at Noon. I like that.
Yeah, I know.
Let's talk about the book.
Yeah, thanks.
The idea,
oh my gosh.
And when is it coming out? I know you and I've because I've recently done one myself, and so we've talked about each of our books. Pretty exciting.
We need to chat offline about my next stage. So where I'm at now is I'm essentially finished writing all of it. I had a personal kind of secret goal when I really began in earnest, which was right after Christmas break. So January, my goal was I want to be done by June 1 writing. And I have an incredible editor, writing coach that's kept me accountable. Every week we meet and I have to have at least one chapter ready for her. And, barring kind of some family things or travel or whatever, I've met that and then gone above. So I've written almost every chapter, and I'd say there is, gosh, if I'm remembering, 18 chapters. It'll be about 50,000 words, which means 250 pages.
Yeah.
And really it's my personal story around career, marriage, family,
I love it.
Debunking this myth of balance. And my mission is really to share my story, like I said earlier, not as an expert, not as a guru, but as someone who has lived fully, succeeded in career, and loved deeply. And I've created this life that I love, and I want to inspire people that they can do it too. It's a blueprint that you don't have to do it one way. You could do it whatever way is possible. It's around grit, resilience, gratitude, and just possibility. So my next step is, as you know, it's kind of a parallel path of cover design. The title is done. I'm not going to reveal that yet. It's awesome.
Yeah.
The title is,
I'm going to get a scoop, but I get it.
The title is so good. I'm so excited when I'm ready for that, but I've got a few more steps to complete. The publishing is a big unknown for me, but I'm being guided by my editor as well as a booking agent. And so I'm preparing, a media kit and kind of a outline and pitch.
Yeah, I've kind of gone backwards on some of that. I have my media plan done. We're fine tuning it. The publisher, I'm meeting with my executive editor next week. We've emailed, we've not met. I've worked with the publisher and I've worked with a lot of people there, but now I actually have an assigned executive editor. We'll meet for the first time next week, and got the cover. It's over my shoulder. Boomer Wisdom's the title of the book.
Oh yeah, I love it. It's great.
Excited because it's a compilation of 60 of us, most of us over the age of 60. So most of us.
I love it. I want a signed copy.
Well, it'll be worth $30, and then I'll sign it. It'll be worth $10. It'll drive the value down, but I'll be happy to send you one. But
that's great.
No, we'll meet up. We'll I'm sure we'll cross paths, probably intentionally, on a book tour somewhere for sure.
Yeah. So, and so are you have a publisher you're working with?
I'm working with the publisher. I'll just promote them. Indigo River Publishing. They're in Florida. It's a hybrid of self-publishing and traditional publishing. So I could have gone the self-publishing route, which I've done before with a couple of books where I literally paid for everything, did it all myself, did all the promotion, literally everything out of my pocket. and then got $1.50 per book, which I thought there's something really wrong with that process.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
With Indigo River, they're a subsidiary of Simon and Schuster, so we're going to get some exposure in Target and Costco and Walmart and Barnes and Noble and places like that. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. So what about you?
Have they edited a lot of your original copy?
That's what we're in the process of now.
Okay.
So,
That's the executive editor.
yeah. So and not to go too far, off course here, but the big deal that I need on this one is the sequential order of the chapters, because it's not a book where each chapter stacks on top of the next. It's not like a fictional book where it's a story and you have to read chapter 2 before you read chapter 3. Or even in yours, you probably have some, because you wrote all the chapters, there's some overflow in some of the things. With us, it's 60 individual contributors writing about similar topics. And there is some overlap, but it's not by design. But I'm actually pleasantly surprised, having read through and done the initial edits myself, how little overlap there really is. But what we are working on is putting the chapters sequentially by topic. So there's several chapters on faith. There's several on resilience. There's several on family business. There's a handful by former professional athletes that touch on, more discipline and exercise and fitness, so we're going to try to keep those. So that's a big part of what we're working on now. So yeah, I think the compilation of the book is probably going to take, when all is said and done, the final journey towards the end of the book being out is probably going to take just as long as putting the book together did. So
yeah, that's, for me, it's what I think I really love, because this is the creative kind of the writing part, which I really loved, is largely finished, other than some editing. Not anticipating the publishing editor editing that will inevitably come, but now it's the strategy of the pitch, which I love. It's like pitching a new brand or a new business.
You're used to that. That's
positioning that and differentiating, and why me, why now, why this book, is really kind of where I'm focusing. And what does it offer the reader that I feel like is searching and craving something different? What I believe is that there's a whole set of largely women, ambitious, eager women that are trying to balance career, family, marriage, and they're struggling, they're doubting, they're overwhelmed, they're wondering if what they're even doing is sustainable or worth it. So there's that. And then there's also people that are like, I don't even know if I want to take it on. I don't even know if I want to take on children, because I might have to sacrifice my career. And I'm here to tell you, you don't. Yeah. But you have to have these things in place. So the framing of the story and the why, kind of the why now, why me, is fun. And I was going to say, for me, it's, yes, I wrote it all, but what's going to be, I think, really great are two things. My husband just finished his chapter. So his chapter is really important as my ultimate support system that enabled me to have the career and raise the kids without a nanny or a daycare. We made a choice. And his chapter and his journal that he kept when the kids were little is incredible. And he really outlines for men the pluses and minuses of giving up a career and doing this.
Wow.
And he addresses things like, the imposter syndrome, the looks at the park of the creepy guy,
all the moms and their kids, and then him.
The failures, the failures on Teacher Appreciation Day, or the birthday in the classroom when he forgot to bring X, Y, or Z, and I might have been out of town.
Yeah.
He talks about the demasculization or potential. And I think he ended with something around, he was confident enough in his masculinity and in our relationship and our marriage to do it. And he kind of puts a challenge to the men, like, are you man enough to do it? Are you man enough to take the risk to do it? It's not for everybody. For us, it worked. And we believe that in a lot of it, he was probably better suited at that stage of life than I was.
Yeah.
And then when I left Nordstrom and started consulting and I had the flexibility, then I was able to step in as kind of more of the primary, and he went back to work in a different career. And I was probably better at those teenage years and kind of the momager of
I like that.
getting through high school and applying to college and all of that.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, going to be a really interesting part. And then the last thing is every chapter I end with the lessons learned so that I can really kind of impart the insights. And then the best part, I think, kind of to play off that journal that we both love, is questions for reflection.
Yeah.
And I give enough room in the chapter design where there's a couple lines after every question in every chapter for journaling.
Good.
That also will be available for a PDF. So it's really to help the reader go from, wow, this is a great story, to, okay, wait, this is the takeaway. This is the insight. And then here's how I can apply it, or here's some things I need to think about. And it's everything from, parenting to, balancing health and wellness, to balancing busy schedules, to advocating for yourself in your job. One of the hardest and longest chapters is all around leadership. And I think that's going to be for any female or male that is in a leadership role, aspiring to lead. I think that one's going to be really, really powerful.
I look forward to that. I can't wait to, number one, find out what it's called. Now you got me like dying to find it, and more importantly, to read it. So
I'd have to have you sign an NDA.
Oh, there you go. All right, I will. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll send you, as many.
We'll do a follow-up when I reveal the title.
Sounds good. I look forward to that. And hopefully by then I'll have a date for publishing. They're telling me pre-sale by end of summer. We're recording this on May 15th for those that tune in later on. And then hopefully books in store by fall.
That is great.
So you talk about leadership. One of the questions that I do like to ask, especially people like yourself who've been in leadership roles and in the highest level of leadership there is in a family / publicly held company. I work with family businesses. That's my day job. When you think of a leader, whether it's a famous person, a personal person in your own life, living or dead, a leader that you look back on and you really not so much aspire to be like her or like him. Maybe you do, but who comes to mind? And whether it's somebody we know or not, but what is it about that person that you admire, that you have tried to implement into your own leadership style? Is there anyone that comes to mind?
You know what? There's a couple, but it's so funny. I'm looking at the books I propped my laptop up on,
and they're right underneath. Yeah, I have mine.
And they're right here. And Dolly Parton is the book that's right underneath my laptop. And you might not think of her as a leader, but boy, when I think of her and I think of the empire she has built, and I think also she's one of the kindest, most humble, generous persons in our lives, not in the music industry, but period.
Yeah.
And I think about the grit, resilience, and just kind of persistence that she built her empire on. So that's one. And it just happened to be right here, Dolly.
Love it.
Singer-songwriter. I would say another one for me is Angela Ahrendts. I don't know if she's well known by everybody, but she's the former CEO of Burberry. And then after Burberry, when she left, she went into Apple as an executive and head of stores. And I had the pleasure of working with her a number of times over the years when I was in my EVP role at Nordstrom. And she was so refreshing. There's so many people in big executive jobs in retail, but I think in tech, in business, that kind of want to puff themselves up, that kind of want to know that they want you to know that they're the CEO, and they want you to know or think they're the smartest people in the room. And I'll never forget the first time I met her. She flew, across from London to Seattle for a meeting. She probably laid down and slept. She did her makeup in the airport. She changed into a suit, and she was full transparency that kind of said, oh my God, does it look okay? I just did my makeup in the bathroom. And she came into that boardroom with the Nordstrom family and the executives, myself and my counterparts. She was so humble. She asked way more questions than she talked. She led with kindness, humility, curiosity. And I would say, of all the people in my retail years that I came across, she was probably one of the most curious and innovative. And it showed. The business was fantastic, phenomenal, but she has this Midwestern humility, kindness, family values that I really admire. And I think that I probably tried to model her after that initial meeting for years after. So if I had to name one in my business professional experience, it would have to be her.
I love that. How do you think those that worked for you over the years at Nordstrom and those that have worked with you since would describe you as a leader? Or how do you hope they would?
I think they would describe me as tough but fair, a really empowering and inspiring teacher. And I would do anything for my team. I would stand and take the bullets in the boardroom from Wall Street, from the executive team, and shield it from them so they could do their jobs. I'm really proud to say that when I left, almost all of my 12 direct reports all got promoted after I left. And that was my greatest legacy, that I was
Huge.
a really strong teacher and a developer of people. And I was tough because I wanted them and I knew they could be the best people and the best merchants they could be.
Yeah, I worked for a handful of years in professional sports. And when I look back at my career, I think the one thing that I'm most proud of is that I lost count, but over the course of just 3 years, where I was a general manager of a baseball team, 25 people that I hired or scouted to play
Wow.
for my team went on to higher level positions in sports, which was their goal. And,
That's, yeah,
if it were
that's the
five, I think that was luck. If it were 10, I think I did something. I'm not taking the credit for it, but I love that I was able to find and groom and teach and hopefully mentor some of these young people to move on into roles that they wanted to be in. So, yeah, I think that's such a great role for leaders, is to remember that we are there for other people. Our
we
job
are. And
is to groom other people and pave the way for their success.
develop them professionally, sure, but also inspire them personally.
Right.
So I think the fact that I was their boss, I had this huge job, but I was exercising almost every day. I was super happily married and I had 3 kids. So here were all these younger women, you know, earlier or younger and earlier in that path on that pursuit. And they could see, like, wow, there's someone right there living, breathing, that I'm working with every day that has kind of what I want. So I think it was, yeah, I hopefully I taught them how to sell more stuff and, improve their margins, but I also
Sure.
taught them about health and wellness and happiness and family and friends and work hard, play hard, all of that too.
I'm disappointed because it's already been an hour and I want to keep going, but I also want to
Oh,
be
we'll
mindful
do
of
it
your time.
again.
And yeah, well, when the book yet to be named, or at least the name yet to be announced, comes out, we're going to do this again and talk
Yeah.
more about the book. So I did this, and you and I talked about it a little bit. When I interviewed my friends Jenny and Katie recently, I asked them a question I've not asked anyone other than them, and that question for them was, what do you hope for the other person? So let me ask you, let's think about your husband. Your husband, I'm going to get emotional about this because I know how much you love him, and I know the sacrifices that he made so that you could have the career that you wanted to have, and support the family the way you have. What's your husband's name?
Sam.
Sam. What's your hope for Sam?
Gosh, that is an emotional question. My hope for him is that he keeps living as happily as he is today. He, I'm, I think he knows his impact on our family and on our kids. And our kids are, knock on wood,
Here, just right here.
our kids are incredible. And I give him a ton of credit. He, you know, he did the heavy lifting when it mattered most. And it was tedious at times. It was boring. It was a huge sacrifice. He was a trial lawyer and he loved it. And to give that up for the greater good of our family, our kids, us, was just tremendous. And I'm like forever indebted. But so my wish for him is that he, which I know he does, he feels the gratitude of the 3 kids and myself for the gift he gave us all. And he continues to just be as happy. He's the happiest person you'll ever meet. And that's my wish, that he has a spring in his step, that he does without bad knees.
Yeah, there you go. Well, speaking on behalf of someone who is happy because I married well, so did he.
Yeah.
So to see the love you have for him and the
Yeah.
joy that you have. So yeah, I look forward to meeting him someday and meeting your kids as well. So what when you write in this gratitude journal, and it's a journal, so it's private, but when you think about something that you write more frequently than others, are there 2 or 3 things that stand out in the mornings that you tend to find yourself writing? What would make today great? For me, it's I want to make an impact. I want to learn, and I want to grow. I want to grow every day. I want to learn every day, and I want to make an impact every day.
Yeah, when I think about what I'm grateful for, and I could go back and look, and almost, I'd say like 3/4 of the time, I am grateful for our family unit.
Yeah.
We are uniquely connected, the 5 of us. And I'm really grateful that we have happy, healthy, well-adjusted kids that genuinely love each other
Yeah, it's huge.
and that are each other's best friends. And then I'm really grateful that Sam and I love each other in this season where we're not parenting day to day hands on, but we were able to transition from them all being out of the house to this new stage. And it wasn't an overnight, it was a little awkward in the beginning, but through conversation and intention and focus, we moved to this next stage of our life where we're really connected and we're really happy. And I'm so grateful because it's not an automatic.
No.
It's not an automatic that when the kids leave, you're madly in love again and everything's fine and you have an empty
Oftentimes it goes
house.
in the direction, actually.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're grateful that the house is empty and clean for a minute, but then you're like, ooh, it's awkwardly quiet because so much of your life has focused around the family. So I'm really grateful that we were able to transition and get ourselves to where we are, which is so happy and connected and in love with each other and compatible. And then I'd say the third thing I'm always so grateful for is really, like I said, that freedom and flexibility to write a book, to swim at noon, to work with the type of people I get to work with, to do things like this. So time is my ultimate measure of success now, 30 something years later working. And then, when I think about how I measure a great day for me, I want to make sure I have a strong, fast swim.
Yeah.
I can swim fast and strong. That means that my body is still working and my shoulders are healthy and I'm with my friends in the pool. I want to continue to be in the flow of writing this book because my mission is really to share my story so that I can inspire anybody and everybody that is doubting whether they can have a full, happy life. So I literally kind of pray that I keep getting and have the inspiration to put the words on the page that enables somebody else to have a happy life.
I love that. Well, in this hour that we've just spent, you made my life a little bit happier. So
I'm so glad.
Inspired by you and Sam and your family. And I just,
thank you.
I love that, for those watching, I love that over your shoulders, I can look out your window and I've seen occasional neighbors drive by.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what the reputation that your family has in that community must be really strong. It's very rare to see a family unit as strong and as loving as you guys are. And so I hope you know that you're making an impact and that you guys are a light in your community. I don't know you other than a couple of
Thank
conversations.
you.
What I
You know, what's so interesting is, we live on this little island and our kids are fourth generation. So Sam's grandparents lived on the island. His
Wow.
parents grew up on the island. They met in fifth grade.
Wow.
Sam and I grew up on this island. We met when we were 15.
Nice.
And then our kids are fourth generation.
I love it. I love it. It's like a Hallmark movie. Well, Loretta, this has been just a joy for me. The getting to know you, preparation for this conversation, the conversations we've had leading up to, and especially this hour. A lot of things that we could continue to talk about, but I do close my podcast with the same question of all of my guests, and that is simply this: Loretta Soffe, what's in your heart?
I love that question. What's in my heart is that you can lead bravely, live fully, and love deeply. And I'm living proof. And I didn't have it easy. But with, I think, grit, gratitude, grace, people can do it. And so that's really what's in my heart, is tremendous gratitude for the life I've lived, and hope that I can inspire other people to have an equally happy life.